Rain rates really over about a quarter-inch per hour. We're seeing some that are probably getting up to around the range of, let's see, yeah, close to about an inch per hour. So if there is indeed a tornado on the ground, which it looks like the velocity scope is trending in a better direction, you are expecting not really to be able to see it in front of you. So again, we have an active tornado warning goes until 9:45. So we've got 14 minutes of this. Looking at some other parameters here, let's try to bring up some of our paths. This is the Charlotte velocity scope. You can see right around there, still south, that they're picking up on it. The good news is, again, I want to show you what it was like. Whenever you have the bright greens, that's where you see a little bit more significant. So I think it was right here that we were seeing the tightest rotation within this, and you can actually bring up some wind speeds. So this is called gate-to-gate shear, so you can see the difference of what these winds are. Let me see, you're seeing anywhere from, yeah, so this would be fairly weak if this was indeed a tornado. We're not really seeing a lot on here, so maybe lower end 65 mile per hour ends. That's still enough to do some damage. And we also have Larry Sprinkle here with me. So Larry, as we've seen before, one of the biggest weapons that we have with these tropical systems is the chance for a spin-up tornado, but I think this is really just the beginning of what we could see going forward.
No doubt about that. In fact, if we can go to our traffic computer, we'll talk about the situation as we're looking at right now with this tornado warning effect. Take action. If you're in that area, best thing to do is go to the lowest level of your home. A basement is the place to go. If you have a basement, go to a basement or an interior room. A bathroom would be good. Stay away from windows. Just some things to think about in this situation. Tornado safety, your safe place is where you should go now in those areas with a tornado warning. Go to the lowest level of your home. Move to an interior room with no windows. You want to go into safer places. I would say that if you have plans to travel or move away at the moment, I would stay where you are because of this imminent danger of the situation we're looking at with that tornado warning in effect. Once again, this tornado warning was issued a little while ago. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was about 5 miles east of Newton, about 4 miles southwest of Catawba, and the system is moving northwest and north about 25 miles an hour. If you're in Claremont, that is a danger zone. Claremont, the town of Catawba. Lookout Shoals Lake. That would be around 9:40 this morning. Other areas nearby would be Bandy's Crossroads, Scotts, and Oxford, all those smaller communities. Take cover now. Stay home if you can. Go to your safe place. Once again, we're looking at the radar situation and looking at any major signature there. It's starting to lose a little bit of its identity, but still, this is a severe thunderstorm, which you can also look at with the potential for having winds over 60, 70 miles an hour, Chris.
Yeah, and we're looking at some of the winds. The thing with these spin-up tornadoes, it's really, I want you to keep the mindset that even though we have an active tornado warning right now, the way that this velocity scope is showing is it's actually come back up in the cloud. And I've been rewinding this. You see it right there, that bright green. So this just spun up. When it was this wide, you see how wide this is. Here, I'll bring up our measuring tool. Whenever it's this wide across, 5, 6 miles, that's called broad rotation. Once you get down to a little bit tighter, as we're seeing here, this is really where you have the tighter rotation. It kind of comes in. It's almost think of like a toilet bowl. You have all of that water that comes in and quickly starts to rotate. That's exactly what happens here in essence. So you notice over the last few hours that it kind of dissipated. Now, we're still looking at that broad rotation, so this is still going to be a cell that we're actively watching. Tornado warning goes on for another 11 minutes, but I am letting you know that saying that get out of your safe place, but right now we're really looking at this thing to recirculate. So it's really right around Claremont. So Catfish will bring up our tool again, showing you where this is headed over the next 30 minutes. I still think this, as Larry mentioned, it's still a strong thunderstorm within this. So some gusty winds are still going to be up to 40 miles per hour. We have saturated soil, so I wouldn't be surprised if some older trees are coming down. We have Sunrise Beach, we live around there. That's 944, Oxford Park 948, and then 1002 Millersville, and I'm happy to say this is also a less populated area. Hey, it only just still takes one just in general. Still, it looks like the forward speed is anywhere from about 25 miles per hour, but we are also picking up, sometimes that moving speed will show some of the peak winds. So right now I think it's below that EF0 criteria. That's about 65 to 85 miles per hour. Now we're seeing about that 56 point. So let's see what else is going on here. See if there are actually we have any other rotation across the area, because oftentimes you see one of these and another one starts to pop up. So let's actually take a little bit closer look. I think really anyone that is living in North Carolina, especially, I would really say from Charlotte off towards the north, you got to be watchful, because we're actually looking at a sign of rotation right down here. You notice that this one kind of came up, so this is really between Stanley and Huntersville, so not disregarding what we just had, but you notice if I slow this down, what just happened with this previous one, that over in Lincoln County, we're kind of seeing what we're seeing a little bit closer to Charlotte, and then it started to tighten up and then dissipated. We're seeing kind of a similarity right here, not going to guarantee it, but everything within this line is still going to have that potential. Also, we're looking for any notches that are going on here. You also can see right here around Statesville, not as much of a signature. So, Larry, as we mentioned, the good news is that we're starting to really see signs that this isn't actively on the ground. Not saying that it's going to come back up, but that's my message to you. These are going to be spin-up tornadoes that literally could last anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes, and sometimes the warning comes after it. And I think it was like right around the time that the warning dropped, it might have been coming back up into the clouds. But I think this is a testament that we're going to see a lot more of these today.
I think so. You're right about that, Chris. If we could go back to the other computer, we'll show you the bigger radar picture just to indicate it's not only where this warning is, but there's a lot of severe weather threat just about anywhere you go. And during this whole system, the big storms today and tomorrow, we're going to see the potential for a lot of severe weather. And you can see the extent of all the rain and storms. So we're dealing not only with this severe thunderstorm possibly producing a tornado, but the effects from the hurricane starting to be felt south of here. But right now, this is an entirely different weather system that's providing enough rain that we're seeing flood watches and flood warnings across the entire area. So we're dealing with severe thunderstorms and this tornado threat. Because of the tornado warning, we're looking at a number of different impacts. The high winds going to be a major issue today with this tornado. Also, we're going to see winds gusting today, probably anywhere from about 25 to 35 miles an hour, and rain rates could be as much as an inch an hour, Chris. So we're dealing with a lot of different impacts, a lot of different issues. The tornado warning, the amount of rain that we've seen west of here, we've already seen over towards the Asheville area anywhere from about 5 to 7 inches of rain.
And we've talked so much about the flash flooding and the wind reports, but tornadoes are going to be a hidden danger here. We don't even have Helene at our doorstep. Helene hasn't even made landfall, but there is so much wind shear. That's twist of the atmosphere ahead of this system that we had a tornado warning yesterday. There was actually, looks like 2 potential tornadoes that dropped in the mountains. But looking at our tornado parameter, I'm letting you know at this hour, we're only seeing around a 0.1. Any number, it shows that you could potentially see a tornado. This is why I really want you to know, because I think that active tornado warning, it is not actually on the ground. Once I see a little bit tighter circulation, we'll go back to that. But I want to show you what happens a little bit later on. It's through the afternoon that you're going to keep that threat alive. As I mentioned, any number means that you're going to have a favorable environment for a spin-up tornado. Here's the alarming thing. Once Helene gets a little bit closer, you're talking about prime wind shear. Here's 4 a.m. Here's 8 a.m. So not only are we expected to see this today on and off through this evening, but I think that we have our highest chance for seeing more of these by tomorrow morning. So that's why we're telling you to be weather aware for not just the flooding. That's mainly off towards the west that we're seeing that situation. But the Charlotte area, you could have some gustier winds, but really everyone within this map is going to have potential for what we're seeing right here. All right, so going back to what we were talking about, tornado warning that goes until 9:45. We've got 6 minutes left of this. The good news is, we had mentioned, we have seen some vast improvements, but doesn't mean that we're done. Whenever you're seeing a difference here on the radar, you're seeing anywhere from a green to a red. If we can blast back over to, there it is, you can see right there, that is the rotation. I think it's just too broad, not actively here on the ground, but I think that you are going to see another chance for this to redevelop. So this right now, we are talking about the actual rotation here in Catawba County. Next stop is going to be here in Alexander County. That's where the warning is going to end. So I want everyone who's going to be in line with this, and here we'll start where we're seeing the prime circulation for the time being, bringing up that tool. I think anyone I'll extend it way up here over the next hour. I think that if you're in Taylorsville, you're going to have the peak of the storm over you here in about 20 to 25 minutes. Little River about 10:10, Boomer about 10:32, and then up into Wilkesboro, just outside of our area, about 10:43. Oftentimes you have these storms that pop up a tornado warning, but then even if it's not warned, we're going to still watch this very closely with you. We'll try to stream online as we follow these type of systems. We're going to see quick spin-ups that last only about 1 to 2 minutes. Larry, you knowing the area a little bit better, what exactly do you really see as far as landmarks right in this area? Because now it looks like it's north of Conover, Catawba, that we're seeing kind of the prime of this system evolve. So like right about here, just east of Highway 16, are we kind of looking at least heading into the area that there's less population?
Well, I would say that you're not looking at a high population here, but it's well-traveled, and a lot of people this time of day are on the roads. I would say if you're at home right now and have travel plans in those areas, stay home, because it is a dangerous situation. Not only is there a tornado warning, but this is a severe thunderstorm. So we're going to get high winds, heavy rain, in addition to what's going on with that tornado. If you live anywhere up towards the Little River area, up towards Eisenhower Park and Taylorsville, now we get into Alexander County around the Taylorsville area up Highway 16. That's a highly populated area. There are mobile home parks, mobile home areas within that. If you live in a mobile home and you are within this tornado warning, if there's a safer place to go, that's what you should do. If you have someone who has a home nearby, then that's exactly what you do. Mobile homes, very dangerous situation. Mm-hmm. If you are in a car, getting ready to get in your car, please stay inside. Go back inside. This is a dangerous situation. I only have got a few more minutes for this under a warning, but it could be expanded. But in addition to that, the amount of rain and the severe thunderstorm threat is another issue, another impact, Chris.
Yeah, and I actually want to alert people in southern Alexander County, if you're watching us live, right around Eisenhower Park, you can't see it on our terminal velocity. So as we had mentioned, there was the one that we were following around Catfish. Earlier, we saw the brighter green. I'm going to backtrack just because this is significant, because we're going to see if this new cell is going to do that. Once you have that brighter green, that's showing much stronger winds, and then the difference between the reds and the green is showing rotation. Well, you're noticing a new one that just popped up over the last couple of minutes just south of Eisenhower Park. That is expanding. So we're going to be watching this closely, and we'll continue online. That if this starts to get a little bit brighter green, that is going to show that. So I think that anyone in here, I'll bring up our tool again. We're not seeing a lot of towns in this area, which is good. Over the next 11 minutes, Millersville, I think that you need to take cover. It's really over the next 6 minutes, I think you could have a rotating storm, gusty winds at least up to 40 to 50 miles per hour for the time being. And the other one popping up there is Eisenhower Park, as we mentioned. It looks like now the center of this rotation for the storm is moving directly into the southern part of Alexander County for the time being. We're not seeing any other reports associated with this. We have officially 2 minutes left of this tornado warning. We'll see if they expand it. I think that there's not enough evidence to necessarily issue a new one. There was a much better tell when they first issued this about 15 minutes ago. So things are at least trending in that better direction. But I also want to show you some of the tornado parameters we're going to be looking at. We actually have a low to a medium threat for tornadoes, not just today, but also tomorrow. So keep this in mind that right now, this is Thursday's forecast. We actually had a higher threat down in Charlotte, and that's some of those values that I was showing for the significant tornado parameter. Well, the areas of yellow, you can't disregard this. We've already had an active tornado warning, and I would not be surprised if southern and central Catawba County will have some tornado damage from this, and it happened just like that. These events happen so quickly, and I think this is going to be really the first of many that we're going to continue to see. And yeah, Larry, I think that the things are trending in a better direction, but still, I think that we need to watch this very closely, the way things are starting to adjust.
At this particular time, I mean, this could be expanded, but I think it is losing some of its intensity. But don't let that fool you, because this is a strong storm with a lot of heavy rain. So we're looking at the storm activity, the heavy rain causing issues in that area. And as Chris was saying, this is just the beginning of the potential for not only several hours, but another 24-hour period where we're going to see the potential for strong storms spawning tornadoes, spin-up tornadoes. They can be short-lived, but all it takes is one of those in a particular area could cause a lot of damage and even a threat to life.
Yeah, and there you're seeing the entirety of the tornado warning. Looking at it officially 9:45, it is gone. So I want everyone to download our WCNC Charlotte app. That's where you're going to have the most updated information. Also going to have our live radar app that's going to help keep you out of the storm. So thank you so much. We're going to keep you updated online, on air throughout the day, tonight and tomorrow. Please be safe, everyone. Stay weather aware. We're now returning to the Today Show. That's what I missed when you said I was supposed to go over to the tough.
For a lot of severe weather threats, and in addition to that, we can see spin-up. We saw a couple of those yesterday. We saw one down in Rutherford County yesterday, another up in the mountains, and this was Iredell County up into areas in Alexander County.
So where the tornado warning is it really originated in the northern part of Lincoln County, and then it extended through Catawba County, and then ended in the southern part of Alexander County. So here's what we're tracking, and you can see that area of green. I'm going to go through this. So this goes back to 8:50. The reason why the National Weather Service pinged this is notice how it started to expand and then it got a little bit tighter. So it was at that point east of Maiden between Sherrills Ford that we had that tight circulation, but then that's 9:18 and then it's starting to flatten out, and that's 9:24. And often these radar loops will update every 2 to 5 minutes, just depending on whatever you're looking at for the different scans, and they were skipping. So I think this really just showed about how quickly that popped up. So many times when we have an active tornado warning, sometimes sometimes the worst is already done. And I think that we kind of saw that. Things were starting to lift back up at that point, but we have such a high area of wind shear across the area that this is why that we're going live. We're going to stay with you online as long as we can to watch little areas like we're seeing here in the gray south of Taylorsville to see if it does the exact same thing, because that spin up can happen just in a blink of an eye.
And this is the type of situation, the scenario, when you have these threats from hurricanes, tropical storms, you can get a spin up, and we say spin up, they literally within minutes can spin up and be gone. That's why we're saying be weather aware, be cognizant of the fact that it may not actually be an on-the-ground tornado, but the weather is severe enough that the threat is there for high winds, all the heavy rain that we've had. So it's a severe thunderstorm. Even a severe thunderstorm can do as much damage as a small tornado. So that's why we're saying everyone to know that all of the impacts from this are going to be across the entire area. Now, this was in parts of Alexander County, Catawba County, Lincoln County. Is that right? Yesterday we saw Rutherford County all the way up towards Watauga County. I think it's going to be more widespread, especially tomorrow morning. We see that when we see most of the intense threats come through with the hurricane or the tropical storm at that time.
Yeah, and this is all primer for the potential winds that we're going to see. So what I'm showing you is the CLT terminal velocity. So this is off of Beatty's Ford, north of town, and the reason why you're seeing that big area further off towards the east around Charles Ford that's a blank, there's sometimes always a radar blind spot, so hopefully we don't get into that. But what I'm showing you is 9/12, so this is a little bit better data going forward. You can really see that little rotation right there. So I think it's really between Maiden and Bandy that I think we had most of that. Really started crossing the border into Catawba County, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of these because our tornado parameter is really showing a low to a medium threat, because ahead of a tropical system like this, it is prime time for a spin-up tornado. We saw it yesterday. We're going to see it today, through the afternoon, this evening. Really, at any point, we can have one of these quick spin-up tornadoes, so you got to stay weather aware.
Yeah, if you happen to see one of these or get it on video, make sure you get that to us here at WCNC Charlotte. We want to make sure that we share that information. And
I'm glad that we're staying with this. Yeah. We are actually warning a different cell earlier on right here. Yeah, so if you're watching from the control room, we're actually going to go live here. Let's go back live on air. So you're going to stay with us online, and we're going to go forward. We actually have a tornado warning in a much more densely populated area, so let's get right to this. Check it out. We were showing this cell earlier where you're seeing a bright green right here, right around Berry Hill. And the control room, just let me know when we're going to be live on air for the second tornado warning. All right, so they're working on it right now. Here it is. This is what we're talking about. So this is actually right along Highway 485, right around Shopton. Look at this. We're seeing. All right,
this is in Mecklenburg County.
Everyone online, we're about to go live on air, so stay with us. Hey everyone, meteorologist Chris Mulcahy with Larry Sprinkle. We have our second tornado warning in less than an hour, and this one's in a much more populated area. We're looking at this right around 485, close to Dixie River Road. You can see some of that bright red against the green. So Dixie River Road, right over to New Fashion Way. So we're really looking at around the Shopton, the Steel Creek area. We have an active live rotation. That's why the National Weather Service officially just gave us a tornado warning that now goes until 10:15. And Larry, you have an update?
Yes, you got some information for everyone. Yeah, this as Chris was saying, tornado warning, and this is really west central Mecklenburg County and eastern Gaston County, and that's until 10:15. Severe thunderstorm. Capable of producing a tornado. Was about 7 miles southwest of uptown Charlotte, pretty close to the airport, Douglas Airport, and moving northwest at about 15 miles per hour. So we are looking at some other areas that could be close to Belmont, the town of Belmont, the Lake Wiley area, and at the airport, that entire area around West Boulevard, getting over there towards Wilkinson Boulevard. So some highly populated areas. A lot of people in that area, those people on the way to the airport, could be affected by this severe thunderstorm with a possible tornado. There's definitely some rotation within that. So that's what we're looking at right now. It's over near Shopton, that area right off Dixie River Road, And that's really pretty close to the airport, Chris.
This is classic. This is called a couplet. So whenever you have these two right together, before we were kind of seeing it maxed in, it's more of a spin-up tornado. This one looks to be a little bit more significant than what we saw before. So that's the reason why that we're going to be under this tornado warning for now for the next 20 minutes. So Shopton, we have Steel Creek, right along 485. I think it's right in this area, so just west of Shopton, that we're seeing that tighter rotation. And yeah, the winds look a little bit stronger with this one compared to what we were seeing earlier. I remember when we were doing the last tornado warning, we were showing that this could be a possibility, and we're actively seeing it. And let's bring up our tool. So as we were mentioning, it's moving out towards the north-northwest, so this is going to be impacting areas such as around Mount Holly, Belmont. You need to start getting in your safe place and actively be watching this, because it doesn't really get much better than that as far as showing an indication of some really tight rotation. Let's see what some of the speeds are with this. 18 miles per hour. Still not picking up a lot. I'm going to move over to our CLT velocity. Let's see here. Yeah, right there. Okay. Yeah, I'm still seeing a good indication, but Larry, yet again, like with this one, it's kind of hit its peak. That's why we're also live streaming this online, just because we're going to try to get these before they get to you. But yeah, no, again, if you're watching, I'm going to bring up our measurement tool. Over the next 12 to 15 minutes or so, it's going to be impacting Berry Hill, it looks like mainly. I think that areas around Belmont, you need to regard this probably in the next 20 minutes or so. Here, we'll expand this. I'd say over the next 30 minutes, we have South Belmont about 10:12, Belmont South 10:13, Cramerton at 10:16, McAdenville at 10:18, and Mount Holly at 10:20. And this is a much more populated area than what we were seeing before. And I'm going to backtrack, Larry, just to see kind of like where this originated, to see if anyone has any damage reports. Please send it our way. But you notice how much stronger it was. It literally was right along 485 that we were likely seeing this. Looking a little bit closer around Sandy Porter Road, it looks like that it crossed over the last 10 minutes or so. And now the main threat looks like it's going to be right here around Dixie. I would say anyone that lives along Mount Olive Church Road, you need to regard that you're seeing now the highest winds and the tightest rotation with this. I think next stop that we're going to see is going to be west of Berry Hill, so Windy Grove Road up to Walker's Ferry Road. We're going to see the center of this circulation start to go over there. So yeah, you can see really tightness right here. So around Dixie, it's going to be approaching a West Boulevard, not too far. So it's right around West Boulevard off towards the west. Again, tornado warning goes until 10:15, Larry, as we're seeing here. And this is just the beginning. I think that we're going to see these scattered throughout the morning, through the evening. We're going to see a lot of these just because of how much twist there is to the atmosphere.
Exactly. Let's go to the other computer and give you some information about the direction and the speed of movement of this tornado. And once again, the warning, you folks that live in the area, just right around Shopton, about 10:03, Belmont, the town of Belmont, and this could definitely cross within the town of Belmont about 10:17. If you live in the Cramerton area, about 10:19, McAdenville 10:22, all the way into parts of Gastonia, Dallas around 10:38. So once again, if you're in this area right now, please take cover. Go to the lowest room in your home. If you have a basement, go there. If you have travel plans, avoid those right now, because this is a strong storm, possibly tornado, producing that was located earlier about 7 miles southwest of uptown Charlotte. Other areas expected to be impacted. Once again, we did mention Belmont. A lot of people are probably traveling, heading out Highway 74, Interstate 85. Avoid any travel because this storm will be crossing those areas. If you have travel plans headed to the airport, the danger zone is right in there, Chris, right in that Charlotte Douglas Airport area. That's almost where it's definitely headed, tracking across there. And once again, we'll try to get some ground truth. We'll get some reports from some of our folks over there. Going to try to take our tower cam here in just a minute, Chris, and we can kind of zoom in on that.
Yeah, Larry, you adjust our tower camera to see what we have active. But again, if you're just joining us, so it's now officially 10 o'clock and another 15 minutes of this tornado warning. And this is called a couplet. Whenever you see one of these, it's a tight rotation showing the red to the green. And I'm not saying this is getting weaker. It looked like like it was kind of reorganizing, but it definitely looks centric that, yeah, even if it's not actively touching the ground, I wouldn't be surprised if you are actively seeing a funnel cloud off in the distance. But here's the problem. You're also looking at a lot of heavy rain to be associated with this. And actually looking at the radar, it does seem like we kind of have a little bit of a clearing right where we also have that rotation. So check it out. You're just seeing around Walker-Neal Road. That's also where, if you translate it over to the radar, that you don't have as much as the yellow. So that also shows that you're seeing more of a twist and things wrapping around it. So I would say anyone along 485, Walker-Neal Road, trying to find a few other points of interest in the western side of Mecklenburg County, this is going to be impacting you the most. And we're going to be waiting for new scans. Oh, see, there we go. The newest scan right here has it now just west of Dixie. Let's try to find some areas that I think are going to be most in line here as far as roads go. I think that you're going to see a funnel cloud if you're watching from the neighborhood, Walker's Ferry, as we mentioned it, Walker's Cove Trail, naming Old Dowd Road. That's going to be a significant one that likely this is going to be crossing. I would say, let's see, that probably will be there in about 10 minutes. So if you live off of Old Dowd Road, I would get in your safe place now about 10 minutes before you start to see this system move through. And this one doesn't look to be as indicative as what we saw before. That means that you don't have that spin-up tornado. That means that this rotation is holding together a little bit better than that last cell that we were looking at, which makes it a little bit more concerning. And you can just see the general cells in general. So it's any areas that kind of have the yellow to the orange on here. I think that we're going to see more of these across the area, but none really stand out more than the one that we're just looking at. I'm trying to look around the area as we're also streaming online to see if we're seeing any big differences here, Larry, across the area. No new reports coming in, at least as of yet. How's the camera look? Do you?
Well, unfortunately, the camera is obscured by this low deck of clouds. And once again, quite often what we see in our area, if we can go back to the second radar, quite often what we see in our area, in particular across the Carolinas, anytime that you have a tornado, they're all quite often rain-wrapped, and you actually can't see the funnel, but certainly everything is there. We'll kind of zoom in and show what we're talking about. Chris is talking about some of those areas that will be impacted. Definitely the Berry Hill community. You folks that live in Belmont, especially west side of town, around Belmont and that area, over towards Berry Hill, and that does include over areas just around Mount Holly. Eventually, we're going to put a track on this and show exactly what is taking place. Moving about 15 to 20 miles per hour and moving off to the northwest. So we're talking about some of the impact areas. South Belmont about 1019. The town of Belmont itself about 1020. If you live in Cramerton, around 1022, and the town of McAdenville around 1025. Also, we have so many busy highways. Highway 74, Interstate 85, all could be impacted by this, by the amount of rain that we're getting. Once again, and this is rain wrapped, we got the high winds, and it's also a severe thunderstorm, which in itself is another issue, Chris.
And now Sam Wilson Road, it looks like it's picking up speed a little bit too. The initial report is about 15 miles per hour. I'm clocking this probably about 20 miles per hour, this moving off towards the north. So we're going to give another reading here as it's developing. But yeah, this isn't really showing signs of weakening. I'm not saying that absolutely a tornado is on the ground here, but usually whenever you have this type of signature, actually, all right, we have a camera going in and out, but we're trying to get Sam Wilson to exactly see what's going on. That makes sense that camera is also fading out. We're trying to show what was going on around Dallas. I do have this camera looking up here. All right, here it is. Okay, so we're overlooking Sam Wilson Road. This is one of our cameras close to I-85, and you can see the camera shaking a little bit. So where we are and to perspective of where this is, let me measure how far away we are from this. This would probably be about 2 miles north of where we're seeing the tightest rotation, right around Berry Hill. With the camera already shaking a little bit, you already can see how volatile the atmosphere is. Tremendous amount of rain, and this is also the big warning that I have with this. If this is an active tornado, a funnel cloud, it's going to be really tough for us to see. The reason why is because it would be rain wrapped. Just look at those visibilities that we currently have with this current situation. Again, tornado warning goes until 10:15, and it could be expanded just the way how impressive this radar and this velocity scope is looking.
Like you're saying, Chris, rain wrapped, and it doesn't mean that we're even without a tornado. This is a severe thunderstorm, and that means high winds. It means torrential rain, and that's a big issue right now for anyone who has travel plans. Maybe up 485, Interstate 85, Highway 74. If you're somewhere right now, stay at home. Let this event take place. Give us another maybe 15 to 25 minutes, because at the moment driving is dangerous. It is a situation with a tornado warning. I know you have plans. A lot of people headed to the airport. I know that definitely has been impacted, the amount of traffic through there. But as we saw that camera that we were showing just a minute ago, you can see the intense rain, which is another major issue that we're dealing with, Chris.
All right, so since this has picked up the pace a little bit, I want everyone within this zone get to your safe place. Berry Hill, it's already directly over you. Belmont, you're next in line. That's going to be the most populated area. So if you live south of Belmont, southeast especially, you should already be in your safe place, because this is holding together. Mount Holly, 1023. Be prepared, as this storm, it looks like it could be rolling right overhead, or at least just off towards the west of you, because this before was saying off towards the northeast, but for the most recent runs, it does look like it's starting to turn a little bit more northeast comparatively. So what else we have? Also Spencer Mountain. We could see that arrive here in the next 25 minutes as well. So taking another closer look at this. Yeah, still looking pretty solid as far as any rotation goes. Yeah, Berry Hill, so Vineyards Place looks to be directly over you. Since this is now turning a little bit more further off towards the north, we mentioned Sam Wilson. We're going to keep that other camera that we had active, where we could actually see this cross I-85 the way things are looking. Also, Wilkinson Boulevard. Anyone from Sam Wilson to Old Dow, Wilkinson Boulevard, Moore's Chapel Loop, you're going to see it move directly over you. So instead of moving off towards the northwest, towards Belmont, I would really say anyone, if you live directly west of 485, you're going to be in direct line for the strongest impacts of this storm. You can see it right in here, and here I'll bring up a pointer tool so you can see a little bit better. We'll actually circulate it right in here, and that's the general rotation that it's seeing. It is moving directly off towards the northeast at about 20 miles per hour per the most recent update, and not really seeing any impacts like big notching that we typically will see from like a supercell. A lot of these embedded with some of the rotation that we're seeing. So even though you have the tornado warning goes all the way to the west of Gastonia, I'm really focusing a little bit more on the eastern side of this tornado warning. So really anywhere between Berry Hill and Mount Holly, that's where I'm seeing the biggest cause of concern. Most recent run that we're seeing here, yeah, this thing, as far as the rotation, is directly over Old Dowd Road. Now, I will say the colors are a little bit more dull. That's good news. Whenever you see the brightness next to one each other, that's showing absolutely definitively we have a tornado likely happening. But I still think you have a really solid rotating cloud. It's getting a little bit closer to that camera that we have. If we can bring up the other one that's around I-85 over to Sam Wilson Road, I think we're going to get a pretty good look at what exactly is happening ahead of this storm. Yeah, you can see that camera shaking a little bit more. That really shows that the stronger upper level winds are getting a little bit closer to this system. We'll stay here. So officially from where we're looking now, and that's my concern, if this does cross over, it could cross I-85. Looks like the center of circulation is now 1.5 miles away from this area where you're looking. Look at how many cars are on the road. So if you're watching this west of 485, south of I-85, right in that little area, Old Dow to Sam Wilson Road, you're directly in line for the worst conditions with this. We have our tornado warning going on for another 7 minutes or so, but it's right in this zone. Again, let's say some other points of interest that this could be affecting. Old Dowd Road, as we mentioned, John Gladden Road, all the way up to I-85, and then Moore's Chapel Road is another one to mention, Larry.
Okay, let's go back to the other computer. Sure, the bigger radar picture. This is this covers the entire area. So you saw the view from one of our cameras, one of our highway cameras out there. But there's a lot of heavy rain. This is a rain-wrapped possible tornado. We had that warning issued. So we're talking about areas crossing Interstate 85, headed over towards areas from Old Dowd, right over towards Ridge Street to Interstate 85, right into areas just south of Mount Holly, in those areas. And that would also be the east side of Belmont. Take cover now, because this is a tornado warning. Go to the lowest level of your home. If you have a basement, go there. Please stay away from windows. And if you have travel plans, hold off on those, because not only the amount of rain, but the amount of rain we're getting, but the gusty winds we're getting with this tornado. This is the lower end scale of a tornado, but you can still have winds well over 80, 85 miles per hour. We've been trying to use our tower cam, but it's so covered in clouds, a low deck of clouds out there, that it's almost impossible to get a true representation. But it's indicative of what happens when we have tornadoes in this area. There are rain reps, so it's almost impossible to see anything. We'll kind of show you some of the areas being affected by this. Coming up really, I would say Belmont, North Belmont, and also the town of Belmont between 1017 and 1021. You folks who live in McAdenville, especially on the east side of McAdenville, be aware that West Cramerton, Mount Holly, Lowell, and towards the community of Smyre about 10:30. That's kind of your time frame of the movement of the storm, Chris.
Yeah, and now the official update has this north of Wilkinson Boulevard. So we are actually going to probably see some decreased conditions, some gustier winds about to cross I-85. I think we're about a mile away now from across the interstate. I think things are improving, but still, whenever you have this type of signature as far as our velocity scope is, we're going to continue to monitor this. Even when the tornado warning ends, by the way, we're going to be going live here, live streaming on Facebook and other platforms such as YouTube, keeping you ahead of the storm to try to show you what's happening before it happens. Because oftentimes these quickly spin up and they're gone. That's what happened with the first tornado warning that was Catawba County over to Alexander County. Now this one looks to be a little bit more impressive. We will continue to see this throughout the day because we have a low to a moderate tornado threat today. Tomorrow, same thing goes across the area, and we could even see some through the overnight and tomorrow, so keep that in mind. As far as areas that need to be on watch for the time being, it's still south of I-85 that we're still seeing the most significant. Still have that tornado warning. They have not extended it yet. We'll see that officially here in 4 minutes. I think Mount Holly, you still have to be on guard for what we could see here, so it's right here. Yeah, this is actually starting to strengthen a little bit more. We're starting to see the winds pick up. It's directly over Moore's Chapel Road. So as we were mentioning, more Sam Wilson Road, it is starting to shift its way further off towards the west. So notice where this has been. You're going to follow that bright red to the green with each other. Notice how it was a little bit brighter south of Berry Hill, and then it started to flatten out. Now it's starting to get a little bit brighter, which really shows that this is holding tack, kind of keeping more of a supercell type signature. If we could bring up the camera to Sam Wilson Road, that'd be fantastic. Let's see what's going on over there because we're very close to this. Yeah, this is the alarming thing. It's really tough to see off into the distance. Our visibilities, I think, are down below a mile. So even if we do see something cross, it's going to be tough to see. I think that there would be enough clearing that you'd be able to see like within a mile if anything is on the horizon. But it's right through the stretch. Look at how busy that we're seeing traffic. And also a cause of concern, notice traffic here on I-85 is completely stopped. I believe that's heading westbound. So traffic completely stopped. Could be because the storm rolling through, maybe people just slowing down in general. And the most recent update, heading back to the computer, we can now see, I would say in the next minute or so, the center of this, the tornado potential, you can see the most recent update is about to cross 485. All right, let's see. Yep, and we still see some pretty strong winds. It could be a lot stronger. I'm letting you know that. Usually when you have these blaring, bright, almost neon colors, that's where you have a much stronger potential for a tornado, but this definitely has rotation written all over it. So Moore's Chapel Road is where we have the biggest concern for the time being. Charlie Hip Road. Since this is holding together, we also have the Whitewater Center. You're going to be impacted by this, and let's bring up our tool. All right, Whitewater Center could probably expect this, I would say, in the next 5 minutes or so. So if you live around the Whitewater Center, you're going to see that directly west of Moore's Chapel Road is where we're seeing the tighter rotation. It's starting to flatten out again. I mentioned this the last time we had the tornado warning, so you're probably going to be seeing us a lot. So we apologize for cutting into programming. But it's right across that area of green. I have a measurement of about 3 miles. That's a little bit too broad, but you still have the bright colors of the green and the red right against each other that is going to be really a close watch for this. So I think that if anything is happening, it's really between Sam Wilson Road past Moore's Chapel Road. I'm also going to include Highway 273, so I'd really say between Sam Wilson and Highway 273, that's where we're going to be seeing most of the activity with this. Coming back up to this, looking forward, we have one more minute to see if they do extend this tornado warning. Regardless, if we're either here on air, we're going to be going back online to see what they do here. So, Larry, it's never good to see a tornado warning, but especially in such a populated area like what we're seeing here. And
no doubt about that.
As Larry, there it is. Tornado warning officially just expired. Larry and I are going to continue to keep you in the know. We're going to be able to watch couplets like this, any sort of signatures throughout the morning leading up to our midday show. But officially, we are going to send it back to program here live on WCNC Charlotte, but continue to be live here online. Thanks a lot. Be weather aware and stay safe, everybody. Ooh, a little bit of feedback there. Hello. Hopefully you're awake now. Meteorologist Chris Mulcahy with Larry Sprinkle. We just got done with tornado warning number 2.
A lot going on today, and we're in that environment. We've been talking about the potential for this. We mentioned that if you're watching us on WCNC Charlotte earlier today, that with these with these hurricanes, tropical storms, tornadic situations can develop quickly. They've done that. They're called spin-ups, and they may not be long-lived tornadoes, but they're still tornadoes, and that's why we're on the air. That's why we're online, to let people know that we still could see some more severe weather. But just because we say tornado warning, if it's not one there, we still are seeing severe weather threats. We're seeing a lot of really heavy rain, gusty winds, and some of these are strong thunderstorms. Strong thunderstorms can have winds gusting over 60, 70 miles an hour. And that's kind of the weather situation we're going to be in. Really started this morning. It'll last throughout the afternoon, overnight, and probably till about noon tomorrow, Chris.
Yeah, and what we're going to be watching here and why we're going to stay live for you is because we've now had 2 tornado warnings, just about how quickly that they happen. I'm going to go through all of them, and I'm also going to show you some of the other areas of concern that we actively have. This right here is our Charlotte velocity scope that shows any rotation. Here, we're going to go back 2 hours. I want to show you what happened with number 1. You notice you saw some green right here. That's in the northern part of Lincoln County, west of Lowesville. This crossed to the north, and then it dissipated. That was tornado warning number 1. The other one is whenever you have the green for the red really starting to expand. At first I was looking at here around Mount Holly. That was at 8:48, and I was like, okay. But watch what happened. Notice that red, how it popped up around Pineville, and it was really right here that you saw significant south of Berry Hill, why we had that tornado warning. The reason why I'm showing you that example is we're always here to raise your weather IQ. Even though it's a little bit more in the dead zone that we're seeing here, right around Providence, we're not seeing the same signature that it has the same thunderstorm activity. Check it out. You have mainly just some light rain, but you are starting to see rotation in here. So I'm not saying that for sure is going to happen, but Larry, we're definitely not letting this go because it happens so quickly. 1-2 minutes, boom, it's there.
That's all it takes, and that's why we are asking people really in this whole scenario with the hurricane moving in our direction and this particular system that we're looking at right now, it's a precursor to what's going to happen with the hurricane and the tropical storm warning. We're going to see these severe weather threats, and so we're asking everybody to be weather aware that if you have plans to drive, to be outside, to do whatever, take into consideration you may be in a severe weather situation, and it could be a spin-up tornado. I think this may be, out of the past 24 hours, the fourth one that we've issued on our station on WCNC Charlotte. So this will probably be expanded, and I think tomorrow morning could be even more dangerous as far as tornado threat.
And you bringing that up, check this out. I'm actually going to go to the weather wall because I want to show you exactly what this is. This is the significant tornado parameter, and actually that's to add some FOS points. I didn't realize that. So I'll stay over here, never mind. So this is our significant tornado parameter. Whenever you have a number, that is a concern. It looks like this morning kind of has the best chance for that, so it looks like the next couple of hours, and then we kind of flatten out. You're seeing them spotty all over, kind of little activity. Look at this evening.
Yeah.
It becomes more consistent. So these have been all over the place. We had one in Catawba County. We had 2 in the mountains yesterday. We had now 1 in Mecklenburg County heading over to Gaston County. But Larry, this tomorrow.
Yeah, the ones that we're seeing today, they're the decimal point.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to see 1 point or 2 points, then that is more intense. That's more of a tornado threat.
It's not good. And we're really worried about that. And the reason why you're seeing such a big change here, and even southeast of Sherrod, that's popping in about the 2-3 range, so that's a moderate to almost extreme comparatively, and that's the top of Helene. So not only are you looking at a chance for wind gusts up to 50 and 60 as you've been seeing at the max, you also could have embedded tornadoes all on the line, just as we're seeing today.
That's the thing about hurricanes. It's not only the threat from hurricanes and or tropical storms, but the tornadic threat is a serious situation as well, because you can get several spin-ups of anytime you have a hurricane, you can get several spin-ups of tornadoes, and sometimes you get widespread tornadoes. They may be short-lived, but they are a tornado, and where they affect, that could cause a lot of major problems. And you're looking at our radar right now. We have, and where you see over just east of Clover, around the Lake Wiley area, all the way towards Gastonia and Stanley, that's where we've seen some more intense rainfall. And also, this is the area that we're kind of the prime area for where we've seen the potential for spin-up tornadoes and some rotation within those storms. We're certainly going to keep an eye on that.
And the one that we were looking at before, it flattened out, so we're not seeing a concern there for now. We're still watching it closely, but another thing that we mentioned on top of all this is going to be flash flooding. And we actually do have a flood warning that is going on here, so it's for moderate flooding going on here. This is in effect from Friday morning to Sunday morning, as they're saying, so this is just kind of lingering just for, as we know, the South Fork River often floods through this area. We've seen some really hefty rain rates that have come along with this right around the Mount Holly area. And by the way, we're going to be on your side. So you have Larry and I here this morning, Brad and Brittany throughout the day, and there's not going to be an hour that we're not going to be here and viable to potentially go online for you. So this is just a flood warning, so I misspoke. It's not a flash flood warning. So we haven't had enough rain for that really to speak. But meanwhile, the main story is still of our friends further off towards the west, where it's nonstop rain. And check this out. You actually have a tornado warning being picked up here close to Brunswick in southeastern Georgia. Another tornado warning on the eastern side of and south of Daytona Beach, north of Melbourne. I think that might be right around Titusville. It's been a while since I've been down in that neck of the woods. But you can actually see here, I'm going to put in a loop. Here's Helene. And Helene, by the way, became a Category 2 per the last update, that was at 8 o'clock. But the reason why I'm showing you this is all interconnected. We actually have a stationary front that is just stuck along the lines. But I'm going to go back to the radar because I don't want to miss the potential of another one of these popping back up. Because last time we were showing other things that were happening around the area, it kind of came out of nowhere. So still going to watch this. Here, I'm going to come back to this. I know that I'm kind of scatterbrained. Mount Holly, you have the leftovers of that system. So if I'm hearing any of the reports, and if we're back in the control room, I also want to show a vast difference. If you've been following us, let's go back to I-85, and maybe I can even bring up that camera as well. Notice the visibilities. You can see so much better. You couldn't see off in the distance. You can see that water tower for sure. This is a much better environment. The winds aren't shaking the camera as much. Traffic's still terrible. We often expect that here on I-85. But right around, let's go to the view camera, see what's going on there. Yeah, low-hanging clouds. That was also kind of a concern where you had some of the heavier rain. But there's that signature. Still something to keep an eye on. So Mount Holly, I think you're okay for right now. I'll try to get some reports to see if I'm hearing any gusty winds from that area because I got my in-laws hanging out over there. But also for this, this looks to be a false read. Also, where you have that purple, that's not going to be any help to us. This is not a thunderstorm, so I can't really see that. But if this was embedded in a thunderstorm, as we just saw, because notice there's barely any rain, that would be a significant chance. Because first you need the thunderstorm and you need the heavier rain to come along with that. But thank you so much for joining us online. Again, I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy. The goal is to stay with you. Because we have our midday show at 11:30, 12:30. But the best thing that we can do for you right now is letting you know what exactly is happening and be here first for you if something is developing. And actually, let's look down to the south. Speaking of, let's direct our attention to Lake Wiley. We are seeing, yet again, the same type of couplet. So if you're watching from, let me see, it looks more east of Lake Wiley. Where we go? Here we go. Yeah, so southwest of Lake Wiley, we're seeing the same type of situation. Not necessarily seeing it on GSP, but area definitely to watch. Because if we notice, a couple minutes ago, that was not any sort of deal. And that's exactly what we saw before. Notice near Pineville, that's 9:30. And it turned into that, and that was the tornado warning. We're seeing the exact same effect right here. So if you live
southwest of Lake Wiley right there.
Yeah. So Highway 49, 557, right in that area, that's where we have a potential rotating storm that could be our next tornado warning, Larry.
If you live in that area, we're talking about just a few miles from Lake Wiley, towards 557, Highway 557, you're probably starting to get some really gusty winds right now. If you see any resemblance, funnel cloud, which you probably can't see because of the rain, but let us know about it. And if you have any video or pictures, also let us know, because we're in that kind of environment where we're starting to see a lot of this severe weather threat increase. And like we said, we've had 4 tornado warnings so far today.
Yeah, and thank goodness we have our Charlotte local radar to get the velocity, because that's where we're picking up a lot of these. You saw a much better signature over on GSP, so that's our Greenville Spartanburg over in Greer. We're getting some of the signatures from there, but really it's this local terminal velocity that's really helping us out see kind of inside the storm layers.
At least we have several radars, really powerful radars to use in this situation. What I want to do right now, while Chris is leading this, let's go to the other weather computer. I want to show you the bigger scene. I'm going to go over here on the wall and show you what's going on across the southeast. And first of all, we have a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's all of this is related, every bit of that storm system. And then you go north, this is a totally separate system. So two are really coming together to interplay to cause the severe weather threat. So we're looking at some heavy rain and strong storms across the Charlotte metro area. We'll kind of zoom in and show you that we have another line of storms south of here, all moving in our general direction. So we're getting the really gusty winds. We're getting a lot of very, very heavy rainfall. This caused some major issues already in the mountains with the potential for flooding over there. This is our latest advisory, by the way, on Hurricane Helene. This was the 8 a.m. advisory with winds It's starting to intensify, and now the winds are up to 100 miles per hour, getting stronger with every update from the National Hurricane Center. The current position about 320 miles southwest of Tampa, Florida, and the movement is north-northeast, so north-northeast at about 12 miles per hour. Will make landfall probably sometime this evening near the Big Bend area of Florida, and with that we're going to see the effects here later in the day tomorrow, especially as we get into early tomorrow morning. Flash flooding this evening through tomorrow. Winds up to 50 miles an hour, gusting at times. We could have steady winds 15 to 30 miles an hour with some gusts over 50. Power outages, yes, are likely. When you get these intense storms, you get the saturated soil, the trees go down, the power lines go down, and we get a lot of loss of electricity. So I think that's something, be prepared for that as we take you into the afternoon with those temperatures in the mid-70s. And those showers are on and off throughout the day today. Heavy rain, possibly spawning more of those spin-up tornadoes. We'll go back over to Chris, kind of an update on what he's looking at on Doppler radar from some of the terminal Doppler radar reports we've gotten so far about the potential for more severe weather. Chris?
Yeah, and we're seeing them all across the area. I'm still watching just west of Lake Wylie, and let me see, trying to bring this up. Active tornado warning. You can see it's south of Columbia that they've issued. Actually, we'll go over to Columbia's. Oh, yeah, look at that. So this is over in Orangeburg. I know this is just outside of our area, but we're talking about a lot more significant tornado here. And this also kind of shows a sign of what's to come, just because what's down towards the south, that's heading our way. So that means that twist, that shear, that rotation, and the closer the Helene gets to us, the better chance that we actually have to see some of these tornadoes. I want to measure these wind speeds. I want to see what this is kind of clocking at, 57. Yeah, this is the type of deal that you really see a big difference over there, yeah. So you're definitely getting up into at least EF0, maybe even EF1 strength for that potential tornado down towards the south. So yeah, seeing that one down there, still a little bit closer to home. I still really want to keep an eye right here. It doesn't look as impressive as the other one. You've got a lot of clutter here going on with that purple. But I still think if there is going to be anything, because you also notice that this is a thunderstorm that has started to gain a little bit more strength. I think that would be really our next point of interest. Also, this one around Fort Mill, this little cell popping up, we're going to kind of see, because I feel like anyone could rotate at this point.
Thank you, Chris. If we go back to the other radar, I did want to show that this severe weather is not only in our area, but in neighborhoods and communities nearby. In fact, National Weather Service has just issued a tornado warning down around pretty close to Columbia, around areas from Bamberg to Orangeburg County in central South Carolina. This was moving north at 20 miles an hour, so it's moving. It's not in our area, but it certainly indicates, Chris, how severe this weather threat is. So you have Orangeburg, you have all the way up towards areas near Batesville, Leesville, that area. That's getting the severe weather threat and possible spin-up tornado there. So pretty close to Columbia. And with this storm system moving north at about 20 miles per hour, they'll move across and head towards Columbia and eventually move up in our direction. So these storms are not only in our area, but they're covering a lot of the southeast and a lot of the Carolinas. So in addition to the severe weather threat here locally across the Charlotte metro area, it does include our neighbors down in South Carolina, down around Orangeburg and Columbia and that area. Chris, it just indicates how volatile the environment is, how severe that threat is, and how the wind shear is causing a number of issues.
Yeah, so only right now one tornado warning across the area. But yeah, Larry, look at the difference. We've been popping these up with just a little bit of that yellow, which really shows a stronger thunderstorm as far as rain intensity goes. There's much stronger storms down towards the south. Number one, that's better storm fuel. Number two, it's a little bit closer to the push of moisture from Helene. I think it's that once it gets to us a little bit later on. So I'm not saying that the window's closing for us, but it definitely is going to be, I would be alert for Chester County, Lancaster County. Let's throw York in there as well, because we're already seeing signs that even the basic twist is there. Once that energy gets to us, we're talking about maybe multiple tornado warnings heading through the afternoon, the evening, and then we'll see them a little bit later on. So I'm going to bring this up one more time. We have a low to a moderate threat for tornadoes today and for tomorrow. And here, we don't have all the graphics ready. I'll bring that up for you. Hold on one sec. Again, thank you so much for joining us online. You have low to a moderate threat today for tornadoes, but notice how it's to the south that has the higher threat. We've already had a tornado warning in the yellow, now one in the orange. I think it's definitely the further south you go, showing all that activity, that you're going to see a little bit more. Elsewhere, though, it is going to gently shift off towards the east once you get to tomorrow. So tomorrow's tornado parameter is really having more of an easterly type of situation that we're going to have to keep an eye on as Helene is getting a little bit closer to us. I'm going to show you this one. Where is it? There is it. There it is. So you're going to have the better potential for that. So going back to the radar, let me see. Just checking about. Just getting a report behind the scenes. Thanks a lot, everybody. And I think things are tempering a little bit, but we've already seen what can happen. Over the last few minutes, you're seeing a few cells starting to strengthen right around Fort Mill. I'm not seeing any new active tornado warnings, looking at any sort of rotating cells. This one that I was looking at, Lake Wiley, isn't super vast at this point, but still is worth looking an eye. That other rotation that we had right around Mount Holly, that's really spread out, so that's good news. So these aren't lasting long, Larry.
We talked about short-lived. We go back to the other computer and show our radar picture there, the amount of rain. We're getting a lot of heavy rainfall. In addition to this, I think that one of the most major threats that we're going to be dealing with is the amount of rain that we're going to get and have gotten so far. But you can see the extent of rainfall right now. Heavy rain falling all the way from Gaston County all the way up towards Mount Holly, up towards Lowesville in that area. Some of the areas that have seen severe weather, and obviously we had the tornado warnings and that other tornado warning. I want to move a radar picture down south, headed down into areas in South Carolina. If you've got travel plans, Interstate 77 southbound, down to Winsboro, down into Columbia, that area right there, there's a tornado threat down there. Did have a tornado warning in that area most recently. So we're looking at a day, an afternoon, an evening, and tomorrow morning with the potential for strong storms spawning these spin-up tornadoes. They may be small, short-lived, but they can do a lot of damage. And you can see that one tornado down there. The one warning we have at the moment is really south of the Charlotte area, but this is on Orangeburg there in South Carolina. That's in effect till 11 a.m. And by the way, just if you're watching us online, we appreciate that. We'll be back on WCNC Charlotte about 11 o'clock this morning with another report. But if you see anything, if you have any video or pictures, if you've seen any of the funnels of the possible tornadoes, let us know here at WCNC Charlotte. You can go online, and we'll definitely get that information on the air, get those pictures on the air. Heaviest rainfall at the moment is over in Gaston County, all the way from the town of Gastonia and right up in the northeastern part of Gaston County. Near Lowesville, that area right there, getting some very heavy rain. So I think, if you've got plans over the next 24 hours, and they include being on the highways, dangerous times on the highways, especially right now all the way through tomorrow morning, Chris.
Well, I'm going to bring up what we have as we call our wind graphic, the when, the impact, and the need. Well, everything is right now. When we're talking about the worst, I think rain over the next 24 hours, I think some of the worst weather, and we're already seeing it right now, is really one surge this evening, but tomorrow morning is where we have all the highest rain rates, the best chance for tornadoes, the strongest winds. So I've never had such a cluttered graphic. We usually try to take it to text, but literally
that's how much there is.
Flash flooding, isolated tornadoes. We've seen that. Strong winds, gusts as high as 60 miles per hour, down trees. And you mentioned this earlier, the power outages, I think, can be vast, especially to the west.
And we have our friends over at Duke Energy are making sure the crews are out there. They're in place. When I was on the way to work early this morning, I noticed 3 different areas where the crews were in place, but it doesn't mean just because they're there we're not going to see power outages. Sometimes they can get us back on quickly, other times it could take a long time. So we're asking people to be prepared for this event, be weather aware. Also, make sure that you have batteries, that your phone is charged, batteries for flashlights, that you have anything like if you have water supply, food that can be used in case the power goes out, for the refrigerator. Those are just being in preparation of this. And make sure with that phone charge you can watch us here on WCNC. We're here 24/7. A lot of people may lose power and not be able to watch on television, but you do have your phone. and also anybody who has a weather radio. That all helps. Our friends at the National Weather Service do a great job.
And what's interesting about this situation that we're dealing with right now, this isn't even Helene. Actually, let's go to Highway 275. We're talking about near St. Pete, Florida. That's what's going to be impacted first. It's just all interconnected because we have this stationary front stalled to the west, moisture surging up. This is the perfect flooding setup, or the most imperfect, however you want to look at it. This is, let's take, Robert, let's bring up the cam. This is what I'm talking about. Look at that. You already see the storm surge starting to splash up. We're not even going to see landfall right here. And hello to our guest from Charlotte today.
Reporter over there.
But yeah, look, that's what we're going to be seeing is right along the shoreline from Florida, and it's going to be much, much worse, where they're calling for about a 7 to 10 foot storm surge as it moves in. And let's actually go back to Helene, and we're going to update you until 11 o'clock. Then we have Charlotte today. We'll start off at that. We'll be actually ending here at 10:50. Just got a new report. But Hurricane Helene is going to have a new update actually right at 11. We'll update you online. Current gusts right now at about 115 miles per hour. It is 100 mile per hour sustained winds. So it's going to be updated at 2 o'clock, then again at 5 o'clock. But realistically, once it gets much closer to landfall, we're going to have a new update that's going to happen every single hour.
And those winds are up to 100 miles an hour. So that rapid intensification that we've been talking about for the past several days is starting to happen. And this could make landfall. It could definitely make landfall as a Category 3. And there is not out of the question as a Category 4, but it doesn't matter. 3 or 4, major damage. We're talking about storm surge in those areas near landfall up to about 20 feet. Heavy rain, high winds, and the state of Florida is under an emergency right now. And this storm system will actually move into Georgia, South Georgia, and eventually towards the Atlanta area.
And the difference of this storm, and the reason why I'm comparing it to Idalia was a little bit more of the Big Bend where it made landfall. This one, we'll show you the track here in a second, is Idalia actually wasn't retired, surprisingly, because it cut through a less populated area, went out in the Atlantic, and kind of bent back. Yeah. This is moving through the core, right around Tallahassee, high population area of Florida, and then up through Georgia. And even though it's a complete opposite direction, it's going to move so fast that areas like Atlanta could have hurricane force winds.
They sure could. In fact, they have a hurricane watch in effect there in Atlanta right now. But yeah, this storm system, I saw the mayor of Tallahassee yesterday on television talking about they're preparing for devastating weather situation there. I mean, when we talk about one of the worst storms to ever hit that area, this could be historical. Hate to speak in those terms, but this is how serious this particular storm is.
And and whenever, and you said this earlier, whenever Larry is kind of mentioning like Hugo-esque, people are like, wait, what? This is a graphic that I built earlier, and I kind of want to show you. This is between Sopchoppy and Horseshoe Beach, showing the impacts here. This is at 10 p.m., showing winds at 112 miles per hour. But notice as it heads up the coast, you're seeing 65 in Augusta by about 5 a.m. And look at that, 75 in Anderson. These are all like wind gusts.
These are wind gusts.
These are estimated wind gusts, by the way. And this is Shelby, 59, 39 in Charlotte. But really what I want to prove here is the further west that you go, that's where the winds are going to be strongest. That's where you have the most energy. But still a chance for wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. With the rain that we're seeing right now, you don't need really a lot to kind of saturate the roots. We are going to see some down trees. We are going to see some power outages associated with this. So the timing is really tomorrow morning for the biggest impact for the Charlotte area. You could still have a chance for isolated tornadoes as we're seeing here. Landfall right now, Larry, let's call it just kind of the middle of the evening. There's still a lot that can play in here.
Maybe 10 p.m., 11 p.m., somewhere in there, landfall.
Before midnight for sure.
Yeah. Then it just starts tracking fast and moving across Florida, north of Tallahassee into South Georgia, then eventually headed towards Atlanta, which is almost unbelievable. Now, the worst part of this storm, you see where Atlanta is, and you see that red graphic right there. That's the center of circulation. It's the right side. We call it the dirty side of the storm, and that includes Charlotte, and all of our area will get the highest winds and the most intense storm possibilities as well.
And I think I actually have a graphic that I did this. Yes, so let's raise your weather IQ. This is what we do. Let's give an example. Coincidentally, what is the speed of Hurricane Helene right now? 100 miles per hour. Yeah. So the reason why that it's called the dirty side is it actually couples with how fast it's moving. If it's moving to the north at about 20 miles per hour, it's going with the wind. So that means it would actually be 120 on the eastern side of the storm. Meanwhile, it's fighting against the winds on the other side, so it's actually more like 80 miles per hour. So that's why it's always the right side that favors the movement. You're not fighting against the wind. And then that's also where you have the biggest twist. Usually you have those tails that come in, those outer bands. So it's always the right side. And Larry, you mentioned this earlier. This is 300 to 500 miles wide for as far as the tails go.
Storm. I mean, so many times, like Hurricane Andrew was a very compact, terrible Category 5 hurricane, but it was only a smaller area. This is a giant area with a storm. So you have not only the hurricane level, the hurricane force, then outside of that, you can see tropical storm force winds up to 220, 230 miles away from the center of circulation. That's why we're dealing with so much population and the threat for so much severe weather. And it's interesting. Well, I want to compare this to Hurricane Hugo for those who were here then. Hurricane Hugo was a major hurricane. It was a windstorm. Rain was not a threat. Unfortunately, this is a combination of the worst case scenario, the high winds and the heavy rain.
And we mentioned this earlier. We actually did a little weather IQ on it. It's the perfect setup that you have almost this front putting up the Heisman so it can't go anywhere. And a front is what elevates moisture. It drives it into the air. What another way you do that, what creates rain? The mountains. So you have that literally wedging rain against the mountains. So that's why the western side you have that. It's all trapped.
And it's lifting up.
And then you have Helene blasting more moisture into it. So that's why you're looking at excessive flooding. But Larry, how often would you say that the heaviest rain totals are actually probably coming from before the storm through the entirety in the mountains compared to where it makes landfall?
It's what's called a precursor event, and so we've seen that. And as if you were around late last night, early this morning, the amount of heavy rain we've had, there are some places over towards the areas west of Asheville, down towards Hendersonville, down towards Transylvania County that have already had as much as 5 to 7 inches of rain. So the forecast for that area is 5 to 10 inches of rain. So we're talking about areas that could get anywhere from maybe 12 to 18 inches of rainfall before it's all over, causing major problems with flooding in the mountains. And also we're looking at the potential for landslides that can happen. We've seen it many, many times before. So we're kind of concerned about some of the major highways there. For example, if you're traveling west on I-40 in those mountainous communities with the huge rock formations, they've had to close that interstate down so many times. So that, I think looking ahead, that certainly could happen.
And 10 to 15 inches is actually not a crazy number considering what we already saw. So we've been tracking the rotating storms. We have 4 minutes, by the way, that we're going to be streaming with you. But let's bring up the radar estimate to show what radar has said has fallen so far. And this is crazy, Larry. Let me see, where is it? Of course, I lose it right when we get to this point. All right, here we go. So just recently, we can measure some areas just from the rain that we just saw. They're saying close to 4 inches. I think you can probably take an inch off some of these.
These are all kind of Doppler estimates.
Doppler estimate, but you're seeing 7. 6, 7 over near Grassy Creek and just south of even if you include our viewing area, which is Avery County. Look at some of these totals that we're seeing estimated over the last 24 hours, about 6, 7.
Yeah, down in Pinola, over towards around Bakersfield and that area. So yeah, it's we've been talking about the mountain communities getting the bulk of some of the heaviest rain and the potential for devastating flooding. Unfortunately, we've seen this so many times in these storms, and in some cases it was just a quick storm. This is a storm that's today, tonight, overnight, and tomorrow.
And
that a 24-hour period.
And you brought up Hugo. This really reminds me a lot of what happened, I believe it was 2019, when we had that tragic hidden night campground situation. That it was actually a couple of days of rain that we had beforehand. And then what happened? We had a leftover tropical system roll through, and it just swelled up the rivers. So I think that this isn't just a dangerous situation. I think this is actually, you're going to see terminology like life-threatening flooding off towards the west in the mountains.
Yeah, it starts in Florida because we're going to start getting reports probably in the next 12 hours how bad it is. I mentioned the mayor of Tallahassee saying that they're looking at just tremendous potential damage there, and a lot of that's from the high winds. Now, that's more of a wind event down there. And then for us, because we've already had the precursor event, we've already had all the heavy rain. You put rain on top of rain, saturated soil. Well, that in the mountains, that means mudslides, landslides. Locally, what it means, saturated soil. Those huge 100-year-old trees, 75, 100-year-old trees that are all over Charlotte, Mecklenburg start to fall, and that means damage. It means power outages. It just means you can't drive anywhere. So that's why we're saying if you could be prepared for the potential for a situation where you can't go many places, that may be the case over the next 24 hours.
Wow, and you're just actually looking at how the eye wall is going to be so defined here, I would say, in the next 6 hours. For the next update, you can actually see the thunderstorms growing around the eye wall. I think this is going to be at least 110. I wouldn't be surprised if you were at 115 per the next update. But our time is running up here, and of course we're going to have more updates, 11:30 to 12:30. I'm even going to just start off Charlotte today for you. But I want to go through the timing. Here it is. So through this morning, heaviest rain west of I-77. Look at that. It's raining for hours for areas that have already seen close to 6 inches per the radar estimates. Then I think you're going to see all that rain that we were seeing down in Columbia, South Carolina. That's heading towards the north. And we're going to have a decent amount of shear and twist the atmosphere at that point. Then I think you're going to have a little bit of a break. This is kind of the break before Helene, actively likely making landfall, moving far north at this point. Then the heaviest rain, the strongest winds. This is 7 a.m. Could have some gusts up to 60 miles per hour as you're seeing there. And then the good news is some dry air starts to work in, but still breezy through the afternoon. I think you're going to see a lot of power outages. We've only just begun, Larry.
I think the worst, plan ahead tomorrow, between 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, the highest winds, the heaviest rain. If you can get there before then or wait, that's the thing to do. We'll be here throughout the day, throughout the evening, the next 24 hours, as long as it takes to make sure that people are weather aware and know the impacts from this. And we're coming up here, going back on WCNC Charlotte shortly, but those are some of the issues that we're dealing with, quite a few.
All right, be safe, everyone, and stay weather aware. We'll keep you in the know.